The Last Soldier. The story of the one who didn't know the war had ended. This documentary uncovers the remarkable story of Hiroo Onoda, a Japanese lieutenant who remained at war for nearly 3 decades after World War II ended. Delving into the psychological, cultural, and historical facets of Onoda's journey, we use expert interviews, archival footage, and location explorations to reveal how Onoda's unwavering obedience to orders isolated him long after global peace was declared. This series reflects on war's lasting impacts and the human capacity for resilience. Join us for a profound exploration of duty, war, and endurance. Part 1. The Beginning of Ignorance. Throughout the vast Pacific theater during World War II, Japanese forces expanded, occupying numerous isolated islands. Among the soldiers tasked with holding these strategic areas was Hiroo Onoda, a young lieutenant endowed with intelligence and resilience. Trained under the strict principles of Bushido, the warrior code that extols absolute loyalty and resistance until death, Onoda was among the most devoted. The end of the war, marked by Japan's unconditional surrender following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, was an event that altered the course of history. While many Japanese soldiers were repatriated, the news of the war's end did not reach everyone. Onoda, stationed on a remote island in the Philippines, never received this crucial information. For him and his few comrades, the conflict had not ended. Communication in the post-war chaos was flawed, and many messages were lost, especially in the more isolated regions where small Japanese detachments operated with almost complete autonomy. These soldiers were instructed never to surrender and to fight to the end, a command that Onoda would follow to the letter. Onoda's case offers us a perspective on the mentality and cultural context of Japan at the time. Devotion to the emperor, considered divine, and loyalty to the country were supreme values. This documentary uses interviews with historians and archival footage to vividly illustrate the final days of the war and the psychological impact of the order to fight to the last man on soldiers like Onoda. As we conclude this episode, we find Onoda in 1945, isolated on an unknown island, oblivious to the rapid changes occurring around him. Although the war had ended for the world, for Onoda, the struggle for survival was just beginning. As the sun sets over the island, he checks his weapons and provisions, resolute in continuing his mission, a personal battle forged in ignorance and unwavering loyalty to orders that the world had already forgotten. While most of the world celebrated the end of World War II, Hiroo Onoda, hidden in the dense jungle of Lubang, remained in combat, following orders that for him were never revoked. Life on the island had transformed into a routine of survival and guerrilla warfare, marked by a scarcity of resources and uncertainty. Interviews with historians highlight how Onoda and his companions represent an extreme phenomenon of loyalty and duty, reflecting the intensity of Japanese nationalism and the rigidity of the military training received. The discussion delves deeper into Onoda's psychology, exploring how his mind, conditioned for combat and survival, could have rejected any evidence contrary to his original orders. At the end of this episode, the image of Onoda preparing for another night in the jungle illustrates the tragedy of a man trapped in a phantom war. The narrative sets the stage for exploring the decades of isolation that would follow, marking a life defined by loyalty to an empire that no longer existed. Onoda's story is not just about survival, but about the long shadows that war leaves on the minds of those who fight.